Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Horrifically Well Read, Blood and Said. We are so happy that you've joined us for another insightfully unhinged conversation about horror and the books that really just reflect society and don't blink in the places that other places do. If you enjoy what you hear, please make sure you like, subscribe, leave a review, leave a star rating for us. It really helps the podcast get noticed. And of course, we always want to reach as many horrifically well read friends as possible. So without further ado, on to our conversation for today. Hello, and welcome back to Horrifically Well Read, Bled, and Said. We are so excited to talk today to Mikayla Randolph, author of Not Your Final Girl, releasing from Clash in May. And we are so excited to talk about this really awesome slasher novel. Mikayla, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
And I'm really excited too for this one because I was a big fan of your content and everything before this book was on our radar, like your reviews and just everything on Instagram was always really cool. So to see now that you have this really cool book coming out, it's got to be like a really kind of surreal.
It is. It is absolutely surreal. I'm one of those writers. I'm the total cliche, which would been my life dream. And then I was querying something else for a while before this. So like I've been a fan within the community, and I have a lot of writer friends, and I've seen all of all the different paths the journeys can take, and for it to actually come true and finally be happening is just I can't even fathom it still, and I'm so excited that it seems like it's already finding its audience. It's not a typical book in many ways. I feel like I took some big swings, and it was tempting at times to have made very different, more traditional choices with it, but I stuck to my guns, and I was so over the moon when Clash wanted it, and then to see it also be kind of having people like you reaching out with their enthusiasm and then being invited to stuff like this and seeing other people share it. I can't even, it's like my brain can't handle it still. It is beyond my imagination.
It's awesome.
Well,
Do
you
you, like you said, it's finding its audience. So, like, who would you say is your audience, and how would you describe your book?
Well, I think that I would say feminists, be they male or female, non binary, would definitely be fans of my book, slasher fans, but also with the mixture of characterization. It is a little bit slower than some other slashers. It's not going to be as gory. It's just not, it's a little bit more subversive as well. So I would say that that's a key factor. But I'm seeing a lot of women who want to have their fury recognized and perhaps kind of give into that. It's so funny. This is not something I would normally say, but it just occurred to me. If you really liked Florence Welch's Scream, like the Florence and the Machine song, that is the audience for this book. Like if
Nice.
that like resonated within your bones, you might like this book.
That's a great pitch.
yes, definitely. And there's so many things to talk about from that. But and, like, especially, like, I do, like, there's this, like, vein of rage and anger at sort of so many different things in this book and just that righteous fury at, like, who gets to write history, basically, who gets to tell the story and why. There's just so many great things, and I think the way, like you said, that it's subversive, the way that it plays with point of view and characters and all that kind of stuff really comes into play here. And I really want to explore a lot of those things. But first, as soon as I saw a slasher retelling of Tess of the D'Urbervilles, I was like, give me this book as soon as possible.
One of your favorite books.
Well, Thomas Hardy, I
Yeah.
just love Thomas Hardy. Tess of the D'Urbervilles is one of those books that has a really tortured history to it for a lot of reasons, but also is one of those books that, like, just pisses you off as you're reading it. So, to, like, turn it into a slasher, I was like, if there's any pastoral English novel that could be a slasher, that's definitely the one. So I wanna hear how this happened.
But no, I love that. So it's funny. I read Tess, and I was furious as soon as
Yes.
I finished with it. It was actually the book that almost broke me. It took me so long to read it because I loved Tess. I wanted to see what was going to happen, but I also just couldn't stand seeing her in so much pain and constantly be tortured in these ways. And I finished the book and I was livid because one of my first thoughts was, oh my God, this book is 130 years old and it could still happen today with very few changes. So that was one of my first thoughts was that I could rewrite it, I had what kind of changes I could make right away come into my head, but I didn't necessarily plan on it. And then as I also separately wanted to write a slasher and I had ideas on that and I was kind of figuring out the original sin that was going to bind the characters. Tess popped up into my head again. And it slotted in so perfectly that I kind of felt like maybe it had subconsciously already been there. So that's kind of how that came about. And yeah, it definitely lends itself to being a slasher. I like to note it's not a direct reimagining. I like to call it like a partial because it's kind of a mixture of a reimagining with a little bit of a continuation and so on and so forth. So it's like not the main story, but it's the tie that binds them and there's a lot involved there. And unfortunately, especially with everything that's going on today, it just that original text and what happened and what Thomas Hardy wrote, it is still so important today. And it is still a perfect reason for female rage.
Absolutely, and I think it's one of those books that people clearly didn't get it when it came out, and, I think that it continues to be sort of, like, probably not read correctly, but I think it's also great because you do not have to have any idea what I'm talking about right now, and you will still love Not Your Final Girl. But if you have read Test of the D'Urbervilles, you will definitely see, where the things come from and exactly what you're talking about, where it kind of like it's like, "Okay, now how would I do this in, both a slasher way and in a way to sort of give justice to certain things?" Not completely because, like, it is very realistic to your book, but it definitely things happen that you're like, "Oh, man, I wish that coulda happened for Tess," or for the characters around Tess, let's say.
So hard to not spoil some, but, like, there were a lot of things I tried to keep, like, pretty linear. There were
Yeah,
some changes I took liberties with, so for example, and I don't think this will be too spoilery, at some point or another, something happens with one or more, I'll just my non-spoilery, with one of Tess's parents, maybe, and I was like, "Nope, I wanna switch it so I have the chance to get some slashery revenge on the other one," I'm just saying. And then beyond
absolutely.
that, it was like I think I changed, like, Angel's name to Nate because I was not gonna have a character named Angel. Beyond that,
Yeah,
it was pretty easy.
yep. Yep. Yeah, and, one thing that I really do love about this book is that 2 of the things that I really love are when either any kind of book kinda begins at the end and then kind of fills it in, and you do that, and then you also have that kind of awesome, almost pre-credits murder that happens, like, right after that, and it's like I'm like, at that point, I was like, "I am all in," like, I'm ready for whatever's gonna happen here because in that sort of pre-credit killing scene, you first reveal sort of your murderer's, appearance, which is this absolutely awesome mirror skull mask,
Yeah, that's not creepy at all.
which where did that come from? Th that is awesome, I just wanna say again.
Thank you. I loved it. I loved it. So I kind of knew so the mirrored skull, the slasher is shattered mirror that's kind of stitched together so it looks like a skull and it's got like the teeth that are grinning extra wide and all of this. And I I knew I wanted the theme of reflection and judgment to be important to
That's
the book.
cool.
And
Yes.
so I was one of the first thoughts was like, well, what if they had to see themselves die?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's yeah, where it came from. And what is kind of hilarious to me is so I had this very vivid image of what I wanted it to look like, like all writers do. And I Googled it and it was a real thing, basically. I saw when I Googled it, sure enough, there was, and I kind of like make a little joke about it inside the book. It was on Etsy. It
No,
was like so not quite the same, but surprisingly similar, and then I think that the fact that it's real and it'd be so easily available kind of informed my own terror in it in writing it, because it's like anybody
Yeah.
could do this, anybody could get this.
Well, you
So
know, I just want to say thank you for at the very end of March giving us our October Halloween costume
Yeah,
idea.
absolutely.
that would be very cool. I would
Yeah,
be
we immediately typed it into Etsy here, and
They are creepy as
there's a
hell.
couple of different variations. I feel like we could actually have a
Yeah.
lot of fun with it. I
Well, I
love
think
that.
the way that you describe it, that it's almost like pieces of glass on, like, a regular ski mask almost kinda thing that, like, when the face moves, they kind of separate a little bit. Something
Ew.
about that really freaking creeped me out.
well,
You
it's
know,
gotta be comfortable too.
So, well, that character, not to spoil I'm not spoiling who it is, but that character comments at the beginning, as they're basically dying, "I'm one of the few people that gets to watch myself be murdered." And, a lot of the people that get murdered in this as they're watching themselves, they kind of know why it's happening almost in a way, right? And so, like, it adds that even where it's like, okay, they know why they're targeted and they know why this is happening, and then to have it reflected, like, adds that extra layer of, like, look at it. You're seeing the reason why this is happening, right? It's you, and I just freaking love that.
it's a little bit more of like atonement at the
Mhm.
like, it's a obviously you could kill them, but it's just that next level of satisfaction maybe
Yeah.
for the killer.
I mean, at the very beginning, I think, Adam, you said you call righteous righteous. And that's what it was. I think it's coming from this point of like, you need to look at this. It's judgment and you have to see what you've done. And this is what you're owed for it. So I kind of loved that because with slashers, I mean, it really is usually a vengeance story,
Yeah.
but they can with the killings in particular was something I really wanted to kind of play with in this because, you have misogynistic undertones for a lot of slashers and how women die specifically. So I want to play with that. But also it can be so easily dispatched or it's just like a matter of and I love it when it happens, but like when it's a really creative killing, but I wanted to approach it where it was like, what if this is really emotional for the killer? Because like Michael
Mhm.
Myers, he has no emotion. Right?
Yeah,
It's
that's like
not
his
so I
thing,
kinda
right?
wanted to
Yeah.
yeah, play around with that and what the emotion for that kill would be, but also, like, a little bit of practicality. Again, Michael Myers can do some really amazing, cool things. I think the average slasher person probably can't, so that was kind
Mhm.
of one of the things I want to play with along with these killings and how they kinda happen.
Yeah, I love that. I love the sort of honesty in sort of what a physical person, a human being can do. And then also, you know, that
Even if you have the rage
yeah,
and you feel like they deserve it, am I still able to stomach it and do it?
yeah, stomach it and do it, and physically, like, thinking of some of the characters, like, no matter who it is that ends up being the person doing it, you've got some beefy dudes, and they're gonna have to be able to do some things. And sort of it shows the intelligence, I think, of the killer in the sort of planning that has happened in order for these things to happen, which I think, sometimes isn't thought about and brought into it for the stories and like the set pieces and everything. The way that as this sort of plays out, you realize how meticulously it's been planned is like really such a cool part of it.
Because they had to basically, like, study who they were gonna do and know
Well,
what to expect.
yeah, so, like, to set it up, it's basically, a group of 20 something, friends that meet up at the nicest cabin in the woods in history, right? And they're all sort of well, best friends to frenemies in
Funny.
school, and they're tied, to something that happens, and as the book goes along, you sort of learn more about something that happened to this friend, Tess, right?
Yeah, exactly, and so it was kind of playing with those tropes and then seeing how to make it realistic, but still also have a lot of fun inverting things with some of these tropes, like you said, like, the nicest cabin in the woods. It was just one of those small little things that to me, just having it be such a gorgeous place was a lot of fun. So, yeah, and I part of that was also having the relationships where you're not sure who the killer is gonna be and kind of playing with that mystery, and that's part of why I like the strategy of it too. So I think, one of my favorite examples is Seven, where it's like
Yes.
I mean, obviously, it's gonna be very different, because it's not a main it's not part of a friend group that the killer is, but all of those kills were so planned. And so that was one of those things that I love that movie. I love other similar things. I think anyone reading this can probably see the handprint of "and then there were none." That's something that I really loved there as well. And so just kind of playing that locked room mystery out with the
Yes.
slasher and kind of also twisting things a little bit. It was just a lot of fun.
Did you feel that with the cabin being so nice that it added to the atmosphere for the characters that they were like less suspicious or less on guard because how could something go wrong in such a nice place?
And a place that was so, like, familiar to them, and they had so many good memories there.
Absolutely. So, and there's actually even a line later on where one character even comments like there's so much privilege tied to them and this place that they
Mhm.
don't even it doesn't even occur to them that they literally left the door open when they think there might be a killer. Like, it's that kind of you do have this false sense of safety, and part of it I don't really get into it in the book very much, but in part of it is definitely kind of that privilege of wealth. And so it's the cabin is described as having these massive glass windows.
Yeah.
And you see it all the time where people are so exposed and yet they feel so safe within it because they're hiding behind these glass windows in the middle of the woods. Anywhere else, any other person would kind of get that whole "it's a cabin in the woods" joke and have that sense of tremor. But there is the sense of history and there's the sense of safety and privilege that this group of friends have that maybe they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just maybe too suspicious that I mean, we've been on vacation before and I'm like, close all those fucking windows.
Well, that's what
Well,
we'll
I
look
mean,
at, like, Airbnbs and
I
stuff, and
can't
it'll
do
be,
it.
like, the Smoky Mountains or Poconos, and that's the thing is, like, all
It's
these
gorgeous during the
cabins
day.
have these giant windows in them, and every time I see it, I'm like, "Have you not seen a single horror movie in
Yeah,
real life? What is
exactly.
wrong with you people?"
Yeah, it's just like, okay, and I'm on display. It makes sense in this aspect of, they've just never had to really think about it. It's always been, and that is pretty cool that that leads to their demise.
Well, the cabin was inspired by a few real properties because I actually worked at an Airbnb type company for a while. I worked in the travel industry for a really long time, but I worked for a company that specifically did boutique upscale properties. And yeah, these people would never have this fear of this property. They just feel so safe and yet they're so exposed. And so I had heard some real life horror stories, but not quite to this level, where people didn't even have cameras. You would think that this massive property that was so expensive and, it was their summer home, and yet they didn't even have security cameras. They didn't have the phone lines depending on where it was. They just right! It continuously astounded me. I was like, "What?" I would be the mediator with some of these interactions, and in my head, I'm just like, "How the heck do you not have, like, a security system installed on this property that's more than just, like, locking the key?" And it
That's
just
so funny because all I think about is that moment when Darcy, like, blood curdling screams 'cause she can't get the Wi-Fi to work.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and
that's
that's
a
true.
real thing.
I live in Monterey, so I'm fairly close to Big Sur in Carmel, and it is you drive for south enough, you lose. You have no service whatsoever for, like, an hour. So if you have a problem on Big Sur and it's not, like, tied to one individual provider, it is, like, all of the telephone lines because the way the land is, they don't have good service for, like, an hour there. So if you lose your Wi-Fi and there's, like, outages for the streets all the time. So and that's a very, very popular, wealthy area. So
Yeah.
it is crazy, and yet that's how they're used to it.
Very, very well set in reality. This isn't just like it could, it does happen.
So, speaking of this cast of characters, one thing that you do really well in this book, and
Sorry, I was
what were
just
you gonna
gonna
say?
add one thing about
Yeah.
the Wi-Fi. It's like, remember we first had our first exchange student here, and we were
Oh,
driving to go have like a fun day at the park, and
uh-huh.
she was like, "How do
Amusement park.
I can't get the Wi-Fi," and it was like we practically had to pull over because it was a level of panic that
Yeah.
like she had never experienced. I have it, and I think like my head went to. I think a lot of us were so programmed to have a phone and to be able to just have this, and it's
Mhm.
a security blanket.
Yeah.
And so I could see why it's a like a
Yeah,
really screen where it's
what am
like
I gonna
it's
do?
so destabilizing.
We're gonna have to talk to each other. What's happening
Well,
now?
we just saw Project Hail Mary last night, and I was like, "What's he doing every day? He can't down. He doesn't have any movies downloaded. Like he can't talk to anybody." Oh, like I think that was a lot of the. Yeah,
Thing that
well, I had read it, but I was just like, "Oh my god, how are you passing time?"
yeah, that's so funny.
Anyway, yeah, I'm addicted to my phone.
Trying
I mark my days by the doom scroll.
yeah, well, more doom than usual lately. So, but was saying this cast of characters could easily tip over into insufferable because of the things that you're saying, the wealth, the fact that they, some of them have made some really bad choices in their life. And how did you balance because at any point you're like, I could see any of these people being the killer, and a lot of these people I hope die soon. And balancing that with also, as a reader, you want to care and you really do care about these characters at the same time. And there are characters that are more likable than others. And then there's other characters that, as you learn more about them, your feelings toward them sort of evolve too. But obviously, that was purposeful. And just thinking, each of these characters, ones that, are only in it for a few pages and then ones that are in it for the long haul, how did you sort of nail down those characterizations and arcs for each one?
Well well, thank you, first of all. It was really hard, nailing all the different voices and different people. It's funny because it started out easy because, like I said, I basically started with the tropes I wanted to play with, and then
Hmm.
once I realized I was gonna connect it with Tess, it was like the characters just slotted in so easily. But for me, one of the big things is that as a writer, I love them all. I really do, and
I
so
was thinking, I was like, "How do you decide which baby you're gonna kill off first?"
Basically, basically, so it was like I could see what was good about them all. I could see what would make them friends with each other, and I had a lot of empathy for all of them, and then getting to be in their points of view for some of them, I got to see exactly how they think, and that helped me figure out their voices. And I also wasn't as concerned with making them likable so much as
Hmm.
making them interesting. I
Yes.
think that likability is I think it's a crutch that we're using too much in society these days, where it's like, if I don't like somebody, if I don't relate to them, I'm not gonna care. And, sometimes you need to step outside yourself, and that's a big part of this book. I think one of the things I really hope people would walk away with maybe is, maybe we just need to have a little bit more compassion for each other. I know that's so weird with a slasher, but, just having more empathy and maybe looking at what makes you judge another person and how you're led to do that. So that's kind of how I went into every single character. But then it was really fun playing with their different voices and knowing who they are because I wanted it to be short because it's a slasher and I feel like it's got to have a particular pace and all of that. I really had to use every single word and be very exact and use how their points of view or dialogue were in order to kind of signal as much about them as I could. And then that was a lot of fun. So, for example, with, I would say Eliza is probably she was a very easy, very distinct voice because she's kind of younger than everyone. She's
Hmm.
got this romantic idealism in there still. And so her sentences would be a little bit more closer to purple prose and they would be longer and she would have more whimsical comparisons. Whereas, for example, Kai is very simple. He's actually doing a lot of interior work and his point of view reveals a lot more about him than what you would see in just his dialogue, but he was really wrestling with things, but he does it in a very he breaks it down. So his sentences are going to be a lot shorter. The words are going to be a little bit simpler. He's going to get to the point, stop forward. And so that playing with their voices in that way I think helped. And then by strategically using one point of view for a particular scene versus another, it kept allowing me to kind of shift between, okay, this person's not cool. Oh, maybe this person's pretty great. This is what's great about this person. This is what also then on the next point of view is really frustrating about them. And so I hoped that that would kind of balance the scales and make that enjoyable for the readers, but also kind of enlightening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, I had said before, um, at school this last week, we actually were talking about point of view and third person limited and third person omniscient. And I'm thinking, if I took out some of these murdery things, I could use this book to teach it so well. 'Cause it does such a great job of switching between these third person limited points of view and, showing why you would do that and how it, serves the narrative so much. You do such a great job with it, and not only does it really get you in the minds of these characters, and I love what you said about likable characters there, because I think if a character is interesting and real, you're going to like them to a certain extent, because
Right.
when you understand their motivations, when you understand who they are, and like all of these different people, you've met people like them, and the things that they're doing, like for the most part, no one's trying to be a bad person, even if what they do like causes negative things to happen. And I think that that allows, as a reader, you might not like, but it doesn't
It's
matter if
human.
you don't like them. It matters that you understand them. And again, like you said, if they're interesting, you're going to want to read about them and you're going to care about what happens. So like that was a really good point. But then also I love that you kinda use these different perspectives to give us little bits of clues as to what has happened in their past, but then it also does really great work in sort of creating red herring situations without being super obvious about it, and I love that too.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I worked really hard on trying to balance it. That I will say one of the biggest changes that I had to make in the book from one draft to the next was rearranging the Tess and the red herrings. It was just to make sure that I was spacing things out like, in a way that made sense and that wasn't too showy. So, I used Scrivener and I color coded all of the different points of view, and I'd have, like, little symbols for, like, "Oh, red herring here. Well, this clue here, this bit of Tess here," and I just to, like, make sure that things were that
That is so smart.
too.
I've wondered how people do that where it's like, they double check themselves and there's like there's no hole in the plot.
Yeah.
And that answers a lot because I don't think we've ever had someone reveal that on
Yeah,
here. And that's
and
really
that's what, like,
cool.
this book feels like a I'm watching you make this blanket over here as we're talking here.
Yes, I'm
But if
saying as we're
yes,
talking.
it feels like it's weaved or braided together in this really like purposeful way that when you get to the ending, it's like, shit, I have this blanket now. You know what I mean? And it's like, and you don't realize like you're watching at the beginning, you're like, what is happening here? Like, what are these loops? Like, what is whatever? And then it's like starts to come together. You're like, wait a second, I think this is it. And then at the end, you're like, no, she didn't.
I mean, I'm a sucker for good red herrings like that. Sometimes they're not. There's things that
Well,
it's not,
sometimes
and it's
when the
like,
red
well,
herring
I
makes
know it's not them.
I feel like when the red herring makes so much sense, it almost makes it so that when you get to who the actual killer
Yes,
is,
exactly.
it's not earned, you know what I
That's what
mean?
I'm saying.
Because
Thanks.
it's just to be a surprise, that it doesn't actually make sense, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's actually one of my biggest pet peeves. So I am the person who usually guesses who the killer is and all of that stuff early on. And I get furious if I can't get it because I was lied to. Like that's
Mhm.
a big thing for me. Like there is a particular movie that I will not name that may or may not have caused a fight between me and my husband because he liked it. And I was like, no, this scene
Are
was a
you sure you
lie.
won't share? I would love to know.
We don't wanna make anyone angry.
It was a French one. We'll say that.
Okay.
Okay. It's a get and, like,
Yep.
I just find it very devaluing, but also as the person who usually knows, I wanna still be able to enjoy it, and sometimes I really can't
That
because
movie, and I think I know exactly what movie it is, made me even madder because of how good it was until that moment.
Exactly, and so, like, I didn't want my book to be based around just like, I wanted it to be fun for it people if they wanted that aspect to be able to kinda be like, "Oh, I wonder who the killer is." If I'm really into a book, I won't even wonder.
Mhm.
It won't even occur to me to like, I what was it? Autumn Springs?
Yes.
I loved that book. I didn't care who the
Yes.
killer was the entire time.
Yeah, me
I didn't
either. It was
I
just
don't
so fun to read.
yeah. So, but I also on the flip side was like, I want it to be fun for somebody if they know who it is right away as well, because that happens, and so what
Yeah.
I did was I had at least 2 beta readers where I said from the get-go, like, "This is who it is."
Mhm.
And I had another one who just knew me to the point where they guessed. Like, they were like, "Oh, well, knowing you, I think that you're gonna have chosen this person." And, like, they
Did
didn't
that make
even
you feel, like,
before
super perceived when they said that?
yeah.
You don't know me or my situation, okay?
You are right, but
pretend I didn't. I was like, "What? No." But then, like, they were like, "Oh, well, I'm also in this kind of a mood, so it could just be my own perspective." And then sure enough, when they got there, they were like, "You misled me." And I was like, "Yeah, sorry." But I did that so I could see whether or not it would still be fun for them. Because I think that's important. It can't be built on a twist, and that twist sure as heck can't be a lie, 'cause then it just ruins everything that came before it. So that was really important to me, and I'm glad that it seems like people are having fun with it. I have had people respond or reach out to me where they've said it both ways, and it makes me happy because I was definitely very intentional that it would be
Yeah.
set up
I
that way.
think that's a big deal though, because I had read a book that wasn't it's just like thriller, and it was great, the whole time. Really, really enjoyed it. And I'm like you, where I'm really good at guessing who it is, and picking up on a very subtle detail, and just there's that is a lot of fun for me. But this one book, and I had purchased the sequel as well, and I won't even start the sequel because by the time I got to the end of the first one, I was like, this was the laziest answer as to who this was. I don't think we've even talked about this person but one time, and, like, they're not been a part of the story, and it ruined it for me for the rest of it. It was like, I should be able to have some level of satisfaction of and confusion going on, so it is a tricky balance, but now I'm like, do I really wanna invest in, because a lot of times when you get towards the end, I mean, of a book, especially like this style, it can make it or break it, the ending.
Mhm. Yep.
I
Yeah.
think that, yeah, I think that it whether or not you've guessed it or not, it shouldn't matter who the killer is, right?
And their
It
motives.
should matter to, like, what you've read the whole time.
Absolutely. It should not, it should be, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I should have known that. But yeah, and coincident even, like, there's another one, and I had such high hopes for it. This doesn't happen to me very often, but I could think of, just I think because they stand out that well, where I'm like, I loved the book the entire time, and I was like, "This is wild. What is gonna be the answer as to why this is happening?" And then it was like, it didn't, like, explain it, and it was like, "What?" But this, and then, like, all along the way, you're like, "Yeah, but I could have done this, or it could have been and, like I said, it happens very infrequently, but when it does, there's, as a reader, that's really hard. But we both felt like, we pictured you with the, like, that meme with the red string and the thumbtacks, and just be like,
Oh, connecting. That was me, yeah.
and this was
It's
here.
always sunny?
Yeah. Yes, like, laying it all out. Being detective, right? Like, that's
Yeah.
the fun part. So, when you're writing something like this, like, how long does it typically take you to write, and then how long is the editing process?
This one was very unique. It was a NaNoWriMo. It was the first time or only time
No.
really that I've ever done it, and I had kind of prepped a little bit. And I write a horrible first draft, and I'm okay with that. So with this one, I had a little bit of prep, and then I wrote the entire first draft within the month. I think it's 60,000 counted as a win, or maybe it was 50,000 words counted as a win. But like I hit the win, and then I had added like an extra 20,000 words after. So it took 6 months to draft. And then I take a long break so I can kind of get space and come at it with fresh eyes. But then revising wasn't that bad for the initial drafts. I would say it probably altogether took me a year, right, to send it, to have it ready to query. So it wasn't that bad. Most of the revision was just kind of better differentiating the characters. The overall structure didn't really change. I had a very strong idea of how I wanted it to start and end, and so I think that really helped. And then just the necessities of weaving it and how one scene would have to be moving to the next made it very easy. It was like whenever I kind of think of it as standing at over a canyon and I have to walk out, and every single time I would put my foot out, a step would kind of rise across, like it just kind of coming forward. So I was able to continuously move forward without actually feeling too frightened.
Right. Sounds like your highlighting and note taking really probably sped that up too. Just that you took care of yourself by, okay, this is this is this person, by it being color coded.
Yeah, it definitely made it easier. It didn't it's funny, I don't normally outline much, but I did for this one specifically to kind of, like, make sure that everything would work out with the red herrings and whatnot, and it was a good thing I did because I only did about the first, like, third, and I went, I started planning it with what I had, and then I went, "Oh crap, I need another point of view. I need to make sure that I have somebody in the room at this point in time." And then I had to go back and kind of change it also. I had that kind of plotted before I started writing, which really lucked out. Otherwise, that would have been a much longer process.
Yeah, and I can only imagine because it's very much, and a lot of slashers probably are, but I think this even more so, it's very much a puzzle in how the pieces fit together, knowing, where those different pieces are and how they fit and knowing that like overall picture that you're gonna end up with. You're like, "Oh, wait, I need a piece that has this part and stuff." So that's gotta be really important to the overall sort of feel and flow of the book.
People have got to stop floating. I need this person to stand up.
That it's like well, yeah, that it's like someone will be sitting somewhere and the next moment they have chips in their hand. Where did they get them? How did that happen?
Yeah.
Like
I even had a little map of the house because I had to
yes.
know where people were at different times. So, and I had to have like a very firm handling on who was where, who was staying with whom, how the killer would be moving about, which, like, I mean, it's a slasher. I had to have more than one door for them to possibly get into, right? And
Oh,
have
yeah.
freak
Was it
out.
just
So,
like playing a game of Clue with yourself? Like, did you get out the clue board?
Yeah, pretty
It's
much,
like,
right?
that's what I'm picturing. It's
I
wait,
love
now
that.
have this card. He's in the solarium with the
Well, it definitely
exactly.
has that feel of like, and I just love that, after the first uh, murder that happened, at the cabin setting. I love how it's almost immediately like, "Let's split up. Let's go on search parties," and it's like but the way that you play with it, like, it feels like it's not like that Scream moment of, "I'll be right back." It's like, this is exactly like, in the actual situation, what else would you do? You know what I mean? When you're trying to find somebody, and I just love the way that, like, the sort of reality of situations and also as a reader knowing you're reading a slasher and the way that you kind of motivate some of those things that it's like you kind of have to have it happen to be able to like have people get killed by themselves but at the same time you're like okay I'm not mad that it's not the running up the stairs instead of down situations too. So like you had said, there are so many subversive, moments in this book. The ending, like especially, which I cannot wait to hear more people as they read this and what they think of that sort of climax. But I just love how you pay homage while sort of like also not necessarily thumbing your nose at, but sort of turning a more realistic look at slasher tropes.
I mean, I love slashers. I've always been a fraidy cat. Like I'm a big scaredy cat and I can't do like ghosts still. Like I really struggle. But I've always loved slashers because I felt like they're accessible in a way.
I don't like what them when they come back after the murder.
Yeah, exactly. Like it feels like it's something that would be more survivable as long as
Yes,
it's not, as long as you're not far enough into the sequels where it's too far, right?
supernatural
You know,
craziness. Yeah.
you're not gonna defeat Jason when he's already in space. You're done.
Yeah.
But, like, overall, like, and so I've always loved them, but there's always been certain things about them that I mean, we just as an audience, you just think that you wouldn't do that, but depending on the scenario, it might be your best option. And I think
yeah.
that's one of the things too is that people don't I feel like sometimes one of the things I love about slashers, but I kind of wanted to play with because I do it, is there's always that moment where you're judging so badly, but and you're maybe rooting for someone to die, and maybe you're like, "I would never do that." Like, we're so judgmental with them, and
Yes.
definitely do it, and it's fun, but at the same time, if you ever stop back and looked at it and were like, maybe I really would," because, for
No,
example,
I
like
think I would do it. I really don't have judgment for these people because I really think I would. I mean, I'm gonna fall down in the rain, when I'm chased. I'm gonna be paralyzed.
If I'm at the restaurant and I order a drink and they say they don't have it, I panic. So I don't know if, like,
Yeah.
a killer was in front of me. I'm not doing anything intelligent.
killers in front of me. They say fight, flight, or freeze. I'm probably gonna, you know what? I think that I would, I actually know, I shouldn't admit this, but I'll tell you guys. I know for a fact that I would flee because one time when I was in college, I was walking home through the fens in Boston. You don't do that after dark.
Yeah.
After a movie at midnight, I had seen it with my friend, and we're walking home. You do not, bad place, not where you're supposed to be at 1 a.m. And I heard a noise behind me and I freaking took off. I went running. I swear I heard patter, 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 and I ran. And eventually, this bicyclist with little playing cards in his spokes drives
My
past
god.
me, looks at me like I am the dumbest person they've ever seen. I stop, I look back at my friend, and she's staring at me like, I don't think I can be friends with you anymore. Like, slowly walks up to me and she goes, "You just left me." And I was like, "I didn't know. I thought we were being chased. I thought you'd run too."
That's one of those I just have to be faster than you moments,
Yeah.
right?
Well, like, at what age do you stop putting baseball cards in between your things anyway?
I was a full adult. Definitely was like 30. And I was 18.
I think that's your fault. I mean, that was under false pretenses that you had to save your life.
I would have still been running when I saw that. I'm like, now it's even weirder, guys. Like, I gotta go.
Somebody had it on social media the other day where it's like the person is just walking and you're given the set of keys. You have to go unlock like the
Yes.
hard door.
Mhm.
And it was only one person out of like
Oh,
10
yeah,
that
I've
passed.
seen
And I'm
that,
like,
yeah.
it's really easy to fail.
I have, like, 3 keys on my key ring, and I usually pick the wrong one, so
Well, each door is like, oh, you gotta pull this one a little tighter.
oh,
Fast
yeah.
forward, you push that one. It's
Every lock's a
bullshit.
little different.
Exactly.
But one thing that I really wanna say is earlier on, you were like, "It's a little less gory," and but I'm like, you have the term "waterfall of intestines" at one point in this book. So, listeners, you are gonna get what you want from this, even if it's not it might not be Candy Cane Kills Again, where she's eating the brains off the ground, but you're getting what you want from here. Mikayla, you don't hold back on some gnarly kills.
Should clarify. Yeah, no, I guess. Well, thank you. I feel like I read some really extreme stuff, so I'm in my head. I'm like, it's not that bad.
There's also an
That's what I was thinking she was saying. It's like diet, but in her opinion, what
well,
she's used to.
there's an extended eyeball moment towards the end of the book as well. Your characters are gagging, and I was also, so well done.
I was very proud with creative corpse use at one point. I will say that. And this is one of my goals going into this book, just for fun, was that I wanted to have how the men died versus the women died. If they died, I'm not saying anybody died. It's a slasher, but no spoilers. If a woman died, I wanted it to be subdued in some way.
Mm,
Because in slashers, that is one of the things that drives me nuts is how the woman dies. Oh, it's just so over the top. It's
yeah,
where
it's like
all
an
of the
extended
focus is.
10-minute death
Yeah,
scene where
and it's often sexualized still in a way, whereas the guy dies and it's, "Oops, you got stabbed," or worse, it's off screen, and then they come back and you see just the dead body later, and you're like, "Oh, I guess that guy's dead." It's like, "What the hell?" So I did kind of want to play with that. So if a man were to die in this, it was going to be a little bit more graphic, whereas if a woman were to die, it was gonna be softened in some way.
So I'm seeing the feminist part here. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, because I really guess I didn't think about that of how so many times like the men just get a reprieve, where it's like it's
well, it's oftentimes it'll be the man goes and then comes back and it's the killer, right? You
right.
don't even
Yeah.
get to see that the guy died. You just find out when you realize, "Oh, this is the killer, he must have been killed." Or that, the 3rd act reveal of all the bodies and you're like, "Oh, no, there's Jimmy." And so very definitely agree with that. Or it will just be like, Halloween, stabbed up against the wall, look at it, walk away, but then the girlfriend her shirt's open, she's getting strangled. It's, a whole 5-minute scene of her whatever. And it's just like, huh, there's the choices that are being made here are very specific, right? And I love that yours were too.
Thank you. That was one of my there's a lot of things I want to play with as I was doing it and I keep calling it play, but that's really what it felt like. And so that was definitely one of them. It's funny, I hadn't seen Terrifier
Uh,
or any of them yet.
I still
Um
wish I hadn't.
yeah, exactly. And so I'm afraid of clowns and I always have been. So like that there was that, but also I just knew I didn't think I could handle it. And so I had written this and then I finally just this past Halloween watched Terrifier 2 because I was told that that was the one if I was going to like any of them that was going to be it. I braved it. And I sat there and I was like I am so glad I did my murders the way I did because like
Mhm.
the girl in the bed, I was just like there was one scene where my husband complained, and I already said something, and he was like, "Well, we got it bad too. Like, look at that scene, with the guy and maybe, something in the southern region of his body." And I was like, "That does not compare." Like, how long did that entire scene last? So, I mean, it stinks because it's been around for so long. Like, I feel like Carol J. Clover, who Men, Women, and Chainsaws, and she had that famous article about the final girl. She pointed this out back then. What was that, like 1992? When was Terrifier? I mean, it's still the newest one was like what, 2 years ago at this point?
Mhm. Yep.
So, I mean, it just seems like it's something that could be switched a little bit. So it was kind of fun getting to at least do my own stamp on that.
Absolutely.
Do you think that's like
And
men and their just hate towards women that this trope has lasted this long or this
well, the
like
thing is,
style?
it's interesting to me because we talk about this often, how overall
It's always the black girl that gets killed first too.
yeah,
I'm just
and
saying
you
there's
talk
like
about that too,
predictability. Yeah.
but, like, overall, I feel like horror fans in general are, whatever you wanna call it, liberal leaning, very sort of open, to all different types of people, all that kinda stuff, except a lot of times the extreme
Yeah,
horror
this
and
a lot of
extreme
people.
gore
Yeah.
people, and to me, it feels like it's much more about watching fantasies enacted out or reading about them than it is about sort of the way we look at horror, which is oftentimes reflection on society and, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if you feel that way too, Michaela.
It might still be like bigger systemic issues
Mhm.
just because once something's successful, especially, and I think it's a little bit of cowardice too on like execs and for those people in power.
Fact. I'm just thinking like, do we expect it now?
We're
Like
just repeating what
how
Exactly.
happened
hard is it to
before.
move away because it's worked?
Exactly, and so there's, the people who are publishing, the more traditional books, the people who are doing the big movies, they are looking at what people are gonna respond to and what has done well in the past, and so it just kind of becomes this cycle of like, well, we're gonna have the white girl lead who's gonna be the final girl, we're gonna have, this sexy young person be halfway naked, and we're gonna do this and this and this because it keeps working. It keeps and it takes a lot of hard work to kind of break those patterns, and that's why I love a lot of what's coming out that I do feel like is really changing it. So, like, for
Mhm,
example, you already mentioned the black girl dies first trope, right? I mean,
mhm.
that makes me automatically go to Scream 2. Like, that's been around for forever too, and now we're getting these books where, like, it's the blonde girl dies first, we have all of these, what was so good? You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight, and, like,
Yep.
that
There's
there's
the
all of this
collection,
that
The Black Girl Survives
yeah.
This One.
Yeah, and, like, there's this pushback, which once it gets out there enough, I think that it will show that it's doing well, and then it will start to slowly change. But for
Yeah,
now, people are gonna stick with the safety of what's worked in the past, and they're gonna keep doing it if they want it, especially on these bigger movies. I mean,
yeah,
I think I didn't see the last Scream in theaters. I refuse to. I
same.
think that them going back to having Sydney again, I didn't see it, so I can't judge how it was, but, like, just returning to Sydney, that was safety, right? They wanted the
Yeah.
audience back, they got it, but that was a very safe move to have made, by having her return. I don't know, maybe she's the killer in this one, I don't know, maybe there was ghosts, who knows? I didn't see it, but just, like, they weren't, "We want another movie, we need a big audience, we'll just go right back to her," and that was the
Yep,
safety net, and it worked. So
yep.
it's hard to kind of break that habit.
So if I'm hearing you right, there's this intersection between artistry and business, right? It's like we gotta still think about, we could
Mhm.
have more fun with art, but is it gonna sell? Or even I was thinking as you were talking of like what's the potential that you're told like, I really feel like it made sense because it wasn't those original
Mhm.
tropes. Like could you even get negative feedback? Because
When you subvert it, yeah.
yeah, but there is this intersection of, like you said, like, okay, Sydney's familiar and she's great, but it's safe. For audience from a business perspective is going to be great. It's going to draw people back to the theaters.
Yeah, because ultimately,
Same thing
especially with
for a book.
movies.
Like I still
Mhm,
think, if you're querying or what you're thinking, right? Like
mhm.
we've talked about how there's different people at different times that get opportunities, based upon the um political
Yeah,
or, the way that the book is running. It does.
and because of
Your book could be excellent, it's just ill-timed.
yeah, and how slow the book industry moves too, that everything coming out this year is what was popular, maybe 5 years ago, because it takes so long for certain things too, it's pretty crazy for that.
Yeah, and I have no idea what she was meaning, but I saw that on the Katsu was like, "What do you do when what you're writing is, like, blown up by current circumstances or whatever?" And I was like, "Whoa, like, she's, really smart, well-defined,
Well,
read lots
intelligence
of books."
agent.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it
know.
kind of
And I'm
scares me.
like, "Oh, great." So I don't know what that means, hopefully she'll be back on the show then, but, you think about all that of how it all comes into for an
Hmm.
author. There's so many things. All that to say, we think you did an freaking amazing job. And, I mean, I loved hearing all the backstory to this and just the mental fortitude, really, that you had to have in order to bring this final product.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Makes me so happy. It's funny because that we're kind of like having this discussion too because I mean, this is a good example. This book, I queried it for a while and it was very clear that people liked it, but it wasn't going to sell well on a traditional market unless I made certain changes. So like those openings, having those opening prologues, for example, that was something that a lot of people were like, just cut it. Cut at least one, and I had specific reasons for why I wanted it. Having so many points of
Hmm.
view, that is something that's not traditional enough. And so I was stubborn. I was a stubborn brat.
Good.
I believed in it, and I was very lucky because before making any changes or giving up, I was like, I'm going to go to indie publishers that I think would get it. And Clash absolutely got it. Christoph picked it up, and within 10 days, and it was just amazing, and it felt like a Cinderella story because, I was the message I was getting was that it would not work as it is because it's not traditional enough. And so to have it be loved for those exact reasons, for the
I
things
Yeah.
feel
that
like
it is
that's
subverting
kind
is
of
so
the
amazing.
point. That's kind of the point of the whole book is to flip it on its head. That's awesome, though. I feel like we hear a lot of good things about Clash and just how Christoph is so good
Yeah.
at picking up. And I know Adam in the past, he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna need to buy this book. I know you. You're gonna like this."
Yeah, Christoph has told like at Stoker last year, I was buying other books and he's like, "Oh yeah, get this too. You're gonna need this." I'm like, "Okay, thanks, Christoph."
He's like,
And he was right, and it was like one of my top book. It was
"Mhm."
Eric Nunnally's book. If you've read it, I was like, "You should read it. It's good, really good."
Yeah,
But
they're great. They've been so wonderful to work with this whole time, and so it's been a real dream come true, and
That's awesome.
it's the
yeah,
right fit. So it's just been it feels I can feel that through and through, and it's just exciting.
Glad to hear that. You sound very happy.
I have a big smile on my face.
so I have to ask before we go the bident. Like when we talk about like iconic weapons to throw into the slasher pantheon, I think that this is one that has to go there and is so freaking cool. Like as soon as it gets unleashed, I went straight to Google and I was like, I'm an idiot. Trident, Bident. Okay. I don't know why that didn't connect at first, but were you sort of thinking as you were writing this, like, I want to give an unconventional weapon to my unconventional slasher?
Yes, I was. Actually, I am now blushing as I'm answering, because I had a very specific plan with that as well. A lot of slasher weapons are similar, like they're very typical tools, so I wanted something that was gonna be a little different, and I hadn't seen about it, and also a lot of slasher tools are, one big weapon, so a sword, a knife, etc. And so I thought, you know what would be fun? Something that kind of has the double, has slightly different shape for things, and I keep
Are
expecting
we
to be
reading
called out.
between the lines, listeners?
Yes, I was like, I wonder if anybody's ever gonna call me out on this. So, yeah, it was fun. It was just another little way of kind of just doing my little wink into the book and seeing if anybody was gonna have fun with it too, or if I was just gonna get
There
myself
we
canceled.
go. Adam making her happy.
Yes. Well, the thing is that it works in so many different ways, right? Because, like you said, it's like all I thought about, and I'm a huge fan of the original Wicker Man, and there's that moment where they're doing the maypole and they're like doing the class, and the girl goes, "Now what is the maypole?" And she goes, "Phallic symbol." And like, it's like the machete, the knife, all these things. It's like obvious that's it's very right there. So not to say anything, but yours isn't that. So that's all I'll say. But at the same time, also a lot of slashers, it's I grab the killer grabs whatever's around them,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
And that what ends up being the tool that they use to kill. And again, in this one, it shows the preparation, of this killer that it's like, no. this color brought their own weapon to
Yeah.
the hunt, right?
Yeah, and it was really fun making it something that was gonna be unique, but also versatile.
Mhm.
So and that was kind of fun to play around with. It tripped me up every now and then. I'd be like, "Oh, wait, is the bident in its short form right now, or is something else happening?"
Which is
So
that
yeah,
idea of it extending again, multiple layers to that, but then also it's just a really cool visual as you're reading it. It's like, okay, it's like because number of times, early on especially, it's like they don't realize they're in danger when this figure shows up until that thing pops up, right? And then it's like, "I'm fucked."
it was a lot of fun. I'm such a nerd, and I love comics and everything. So the fact that I got to, like, describe the noise in terms of, like, Wolverine's, like,
Wolverine's claws,
made
yes!
me so happy.
All I saw was "snicked."
Did the wrong sound. I'm sorry.
It's okay, it's no
You've read a
problem.
lot of comic books.
Look, yes, it
I
went
haven't, so I was just imagining what it sounded like.
yes.
Okay, so it's Snick.
That is what's written on the page whenever our friend's claws popped out, so
Alrighty.
Yep.
Good trivia thing to know.
yeah, I know, that'll come up one day. You'll get a beer for that one day.
Well, thank you. Just came up just this week. And
Yes.
then oh shit, where'd that go?
So, what kind of fun things are you gonna do when this book is coming out?
So, we are still firming up the touring schedule, but I did just find out officially that I'm going to be in Rhode Island at Riff Raff, which I'm really excited about.
Yes.
Clash again has just been really wonderful, and like all of my friends and family are on the East Coast. So getting to go to the East Coast to do a book launch has just been it's just so exciting. So that's the big thing. And then I will be at StokerCon. So hopefully I can say hi and meet you guys.
Yeah, we'll be
Yes, that'd be
there.
awesome.
And
Would
then
love that.
I
And
Are you
much
gonna hang out at the Clash table at all there or just, like, just hang doing any other kinda
probably gonna be buying everything from all of the
Yeah,
tables.
I mean, it's a great time to do that.
then you will definitely see us, so
I mean, I would love to hang out at the Clash table. I would love to get to it's so crazy being published from people that you trust and respect and that you've never met in person, you know? So, I mean, I think I saw them at a Stoker Con before, but we didn't get to have, like, a direct conversation. So, I'm really excited to go and meet them, and then I would love to hang out at the table and, you know, peddle my wares.
Love it. I love it. I feel like some of these things you talked about, like, I'm like, maybe she wants to sell her map of like the house
she's
and
always
just
thinking about merch. She's got
yeah,
you
I
in
am. I got
yeah.
a merch on. I'm like, well, that would be cool.
Little mini bidents that you can sell,
That or like, yeah, like the clue version of from
like a
people
pen
in your book.
like a bident pen.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually working on trying to design a bookmark for it today. Just to,
Yeah.
Hey, there you go.
got the 3D printer and I was like, "I bet you I could do something cool with this. We'll see if I can make my own." But I'm also I love writing. That's my creative outlet. I do not have like the eye for design in any way, shape, or form. So it'll probably not happen because I start putting it together and then I'm like, "No, this is not good. This doesn't look good."
Hey, if need be,
I
source it to pay an
you
artist with
know?
it. It's worth it. Like, I love when you go there and you get the stickers and all the kind of things that just make you feel even more connected when
Yep.
you love the book. But you're right, Adam. Like, the Biden could be a really fun thing.
Mhm.
You're like, hey, where'd you get that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, bitch, you don't know me or
Yeah,
my
we'll
situation.
say none of your fucking business. That's where I got
Exactly.
it.
I'm say that too.
But no, seriously, I'll tell them because I want them to get
Yes,
your
I
book.
want them to go. I'm sorry. That's just a natural reaction for us.
My gut reaction there. And are you working on anything now? Anything in the future that we can be excited for since we loved this book so much?
So it's funny, keep circling back. I just finished my finalish draft of my next book, which I like to think of as like a witchy X-Men by way of like Rachel Harrison with a touch of noir.
Just like immediately like, okay,
Come
even if I
on.
haven't read the like comics, I love the movies. And so, okay, a witchy X-Men.
So I actually just finished that. And so I'm going to start querying that hopefully within a few weeks. So, keep your fingers crossed. And, if
Yeah,
anybody's
well,
listening to this and then they hear it and they say they want it, give me a call.
Love that. I cannot wait. It will know that will be picked up, and I can't wait to have you back on to talk about that.
Thank you. I'm so excited. It's fun because it's like it's more fantasy, obviously, and like than this, which is very slashers are so traditional. So it was
Yeah.
really fun kind of getting to create my own world. Well, It's a speculative take on our world where a small portion of women and only women are witches.
Yes.
So it was a lot of fun to kind of play with how that would look and how people would react to it. It's still very feminist, of course. I think that's going to end up being a through line for all of my works, but it was a lot of fun to do that. And then it's one point of view. It's first person, and I love her. She's just such a likable character, and it's just so different going from like that, from this to that. It's been really enjoyable doing something so very different, but then still finding those through lines.
Yeah, that's awesome. That sounds so cool. So, very excited for that. Where can everyone find you on socials, all that kind of stuff?
I am pretty much just lurking on Instagram. I am at Mick_Randolph. That's my go-to. Every now and then I remember I have a threads and I do a post there.
Just hangs out there. It's hard to remember that one, but
Yeah,
like for business, but like then it's the most deranged area,
it is.
and
Yeah,
it is like it makes my life
unhinged.
so happy.
Yes.
Yeah, I mainly just lurk there and then read like very thoughtful pieces from other people and then maybe reshare it. So I'll do that. And then I also have my website, which is Mikayla_Randolph. And then the book is going to be out May 5th and it's going to be available in Barnes and Nobles and independent stores, hopefully worldwide.
So
Awesome.
exciting. Well,
Awesome.
congratulations. And I know that this book is going to be beloved. This is 2026, as I posted about earlier, is the year of the slasher by women. And this is like such a great book. And I can't wait for everyone to discover it. And thank you so much for joining us
Yes,
tonight.
thank you, Michaela.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Good night.
Have a nice night.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.